Free Diddy? Wait, who said what? Who said free Diddy?
For the opening statements, day one, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming out really quickly to talk about this. So first, I want you to set the stage. The whole scene out there. You had almost trouble getting into the courthouse today. Talk to us about what you're seeing.
Oh yeah, I crashed out a little bit this morning, Jesse, thinking I was not about to get inside that courtroom just because of just how crazy it is. I mean, you can just see the lines just going all the way back with media. It's going all the way back just with the public, just so some people could either, one, watch the trial, get a glimpse of Diddy's family members coming in and outside of the courtroom, and even as well as see his attorneys, whose members include Brian Steele, Mark Agnifilo, Mark Garagos playing in kind of that defensive advisory type of role. So it's crazy out here, especially, you know, it's Diddy, it's high profile celebrities, it's salacious allegations. Then on top of that, he's facing a lot of time behind bars, so you can understand why so many people of the public wanted to be here and wanted to get here super early so that way they could attend. I even heard somebody was standing in line and was auctioning off how much that they would give to somebody else in line for up to $500, $600. So that's just a lot of people here. Now, as far as who was inside the courtroom today, still is a lot of famous faces, or let me not say famous faces, but a lot of people that we are definitely familiar with here at Law and Crime. You have Mark Garagos in the courtroom, Karen Agnifilo, who is the wife of Mark Agnifilo, who's also representing Luigi as well too. You had Little Rod inside, inside the courtroom today, and he's one who had filed one of the main civil claims against Diddy as well too. He came in probably, I would say, maybe a little like 8:30ish.
Hugh scalpers,
came in with the sunglasses, 2 chains on, as well as his attorney was inside that courtroom as well too. You have all of Diddy's children, with the exception of his youngest daughter, Love, were inside that courtroom. So that includes Quincy Brown, Justin Combs, Christian Combs, Delilah Combs, Chance Combs, Jesse Combs. Chance's mother was inside that courtroom. Diddy's mother was inside that courtroom. The daughter of Diddy's youngest daughter was inside that courtroom. And then you have the twins' caregiver, who is also best friends with Kim Porter, just opening statements just to get this jury selected, because it went down from 43 to 18 today. And so a lot of people were inside that courtroom. It was body to body, and what can you expect? It's Diddy's first day of trial, so this was, you know, just a little bit of what we were expecting today, but it's crazy out here.
And I will encourage everybody to check out what you're posting on X, Twitter. Because earlier today you actually posted that you saw Rodney Little Rod Jones, one of the first people to sue Sean Combs. He was outside the courthouse. We were always expecting who would end up showing up during the course of this trial. Talk to us about the jury. Who is this jury? What can you tell about how they're reacting so far to opening statements? I mean, NBC has reported you have one juror who's a 69-year-old male, another juror who's a 31-year-old male, another one 51-year-old male. You have a 42-year-old female, and they have different numbers to them. But what are you determining based on the jury? What's the makeup, and how are they?
Does it fucking matter? I mean, this guy's getting locked up. It doesn't matter. Like, you could give... Bro, you could get 5 random people, 8 random people, and this dude would be done.
How are they reacting to the opening statement so far?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, kind of a hard question to answer, I should say, just because of where I was sitting inside the gallery. It was really hard to kind of see each and every single one of their faces when both sides were presenting opening statements. But what I did see from being inside that gallery was some people jotting notes, some people just very much intently listening to both Emily Johnson for the prosecution as well as Tony Garagos for the defense. But as far as the makeup goes, I kind of just took their jury numbers and compared them to the notes that I took last week when I was here for jury selection. You have one who's a scientist, one whose brother is a security guard. He knew Diddy was arrested.
Do you think Diddy acted alone? No, and I don't care about this case at all until Diddy starts naming names. That's what my real opinion is about it. I mean, like, I think it's just so obvious that he's guilty, right? I mean, it's like the Bill Cosby thing. Like, oh, one person comes out against Bill Cosby. You know, like, it was 40 years ago. Who knows? 2 people come out against Bill Cosby. Oh, well, you know, it's famous. Sometimes these happens to people. 3 people come out about Bill Cosby. Well, that's kind of weird. 4 people come back about Bill Cosby. Yeah, listening to that stand-up, that is kind of a weird joke. 7 people come out about Bill Cosby. Oh, wow. What's this? And you're up to like 40 or something like that. Uh-oh. You know, things aren't looking too good. And so I feel this way with Diddy too, right? Is that with this many people, this many examples, 1,000 pounds of baby oil, bro, this dude's a freak. But we all know that. Everybody knows that. When are we going to get the names of the people that were related to this to hold them accountable as well? That is what I want to know. That is what I want to see. Never? No, guys. I think we will. We're talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. People like this. We're not talking about Bill Clinton. Okay? Like, this is like a mountain next to a molehill. Like, yes, obviously the people in the Epstein list, a lot of them are going to get away because they're heads of state and they're fucking billionaires. But these are just movie stars. If you think that there's even a remote clout comparison between a movie star and a president of a country, this is not even close.
But didn't know the charges. You have one person who's part of a union job. He works for the Department of Corrections. Another person who is now retired, but previously...
I don't think he'll need to. I think the video, because he said they recorded so much of this stuff. I don't think he's gonna need to flip. They're gonna have the evidence for it. It's gonna be just play the tape, right?
To work at Verizon. You had another person whose friend is a detective.
It's hard to say, but it sure seems interesting.
But, you know, as far as the defense was kind of making their objections today as far as jury selection goes, and, you know, just kind of the objections they made that, you know, the government was striking 7 black...
I have an objection. We can't have this jury member on the jury. This person is against sexual assault and rape. I think this would be biased against our case. So I'd like to recommend the court to look for a new person who isn't as biased against sexual assault.
Jurors, that type of thing. There were still black jurors that are going to be serving on this panel who are going to be making making the decisions going into those deliberations. So from what I saw of the jury makeup as a whole, it really was a diverse group of men and women of all different ages.
Shut up. Shut up and go back to selling water. Shut up, you idiot. What are you doing?
Decisions going into those deliberations. So from what I saw of the jury makeup as a whole, it really was a diverse group of men and women of all different ages, all different walks of life as well, too.
So I'm going to, we hear some commentary in the back.
Is being a black man, oh my God, it's again, what is wrong with you? Stop, this is not, he's guilty of being black? Like what?
Right there. Obviously, I think there's going to be a lot of commentary when it comes to this case. But Elizabeth, you know, we counted up right now, I believe.
He's actually, you guys might not know this, but that was actually his interview for being part of Diddy's jury. Yeah, the Diddy case is going to see them, and the defense is going to see him, and they're going to try to bring him on the jury now.
That was his interview. As we're looking into this, we're counting up how many men there are. I believe there's 8 men.
No, never mind. Space, that was his lawyer.
4 women on this jury, all different ages, none of them younger than 30 years old. Take that for what it is, a little bit of older individuals as well. But I think it's really interesting when you talk about what we saw today with opening statements, right? And by the way, just to reiterate something that you mentioned before, the first argument.
Last time I went to jury duty, they interviewed me. They said, they're like, can you uphold the law? I said, no. I'm just going to look at them. I tell you right now, if they're guilty, I just look at them. And they're like, are you being serious? I said, yeah, I'm being serious. Yeah, you just look at them, you know if they did it or not. That's it. Yeah, I wasn't even lying, right? Like 9 times out of 10, you just look at them, you know they did it.
We heard from the defense today was saying that the prosecution, they raised what's called a Batson challenge.
Wouldn't they kick you?
To
Yeah,
their
they kicked me off.
challenges, saying you're striking jurors based on race, which is improper. The judge didn't side with it. They got a jury selected. Talk about opening statements. I want to start with the prosecution. Emily Johnson, what was the main theme of today, and did you learn something new? And Elizabeth, you're going to have to talk a little bit.
They're going to have to put this guy in Grand Theft Auto 7.
louder because that guy behind you is incredibly loud. So, so what was the theme of Emily Johnson's opening statement, and did you learn anything new? Anybody that might testify?
Yeah, so, obviously we've been following this case from the beginning, from the time that Cassie had first dropped her civil lawsuits against Diddy. And so a lot of this stuff that we were listening to from Emily Johnson was expected, right? She starts off with saying, this is Sean Combs. He's a cultural icon, a businessman. He's larger than life. But then she went and kind of talked about the defendant's crimes, the defendant being Diddy, that went past 20 years, kidnapping, allegations of arson, allegations of drug trafficking, sex crimes, obstruction. They were talking about one specific night where the defendant was on the hunt for girlfriend Cassie. So I was pretty surprised.
He's on the hunt? I mean, I feel like, really, you gonna just say it that way? I mean, fuck, bro. Let's just get to the conviction part. Like, on the hunt?
Out of the gates and already had just named her. I was assuming when she were going to be taking the stand, that's when the jurors would know her name. That's when she would be introduced as,
Hey guys, keep in mind that a lot of the celebrities that were at these different parties were the ones that were crying into their cameras during COVID, telling you to get vaccinated and who to vote for. Keep that in mind, okay?
Alleged victim number one, but the government came out and just automatically just named her. They talked about the incident where Diddy found out Cassie was seeing another man, and that Diddy took his gun and his bodyguard, and Diddy threatened to allegedly kill this man that Cassie was with. Emily Johnson talked about how he had beat Cassie so brutally that he also had to take control of her. He kept videos of Cassie sleeping with escorts and threatened to use them against her. These are the types of things we had already known and were already kind of painted out inside.
So this is the stuff that everybody already knows about this. Like, it's not even a big deal. It's like, oh yeah, of course, he threatened to kill her boyfriend, and he like recorded her without her consent, with everything. But like, yeah, we're talking about the new stuff.
Indictments that the government had written up and that type of sort. Diddy referring himself as a king, which is kind of ironic.
Had a male stripper piss in her mouth. You know what I bet that is? I bet that's a 2 out of 10 on the Diddy scale. And the worst thing about it is I bet nobody in this chat is going to even begin to disagree with that.
Has a giant king crown on the back of his neck. Emily Johnson spoke about the defendant using his inner circle to manipulate women that for a while he watched, how his bodyguards kind of played, or bodyguards as well as employees kind of played a role into this alleged RICO conspiracy as well too, and she made it a point to say this case is not about a celebrity's private sex preferences, because that was something that the defense definitely kind of chalked it up to.
Well, I mean, if the preferences are people that are under a certain age, I do think that it's a bit relevant. But, it doesn't matter if he's gay or not. Like, nobody gives a shit about that.
That he lived an alternative lifestyle, that type of sort. And we'll talk about that more in a second. While there has been a lot of reports about victim 3 and where her whereabouts are or anything like that, the defense didn't talk about alleged victim number 3. Instead, they kept it pretty short and to the point. They talked about Cassie. They talked about Jane, who we presume to be the other alleged victim. In this case, the government was talking about, the freak-offs being also named Wild King Night, something that we had also known about as well.
Wild King Night. Do you remember what I said about that Cat Williams interview? You can be Kang the Conqueror, but in 2 weeks, your life can get turned upside down. That's crazy, right?
Even just simply as hotel nights as well too.
It's 2 weekends.
Allegations of flying
That's about right,
escorts across state lines, out of the country, into the country, that type of thing. That Diddy had demands to for the staff to set up his rooms in advance, lighting, lube, cash for escorts, drugs for both Diddy and the women that were participating in these types of events. Women had to dress in lingerie, had to wear white nails, tall heels, something that Cassie had pointed out in her civil lawsuit that was later settled. Talking about the drug
This
use.
is out of like a movie.
Then they went into kind of, the allegations specifically geared towards Cassie and just how, the defendant had met Cassie. They had a 17-year age difference. Cassie was initially given a 10-album deal. and
17
that
years.
never
That's a
happened
lot.
as far as putting out a whole bunch of different albums and that type of sort. You know, and so these were types of things that we had already known about. I think some of the more interesting points also go to Jane.
I mean, like, that's not even a big thing, like, right? I mean, two consenting adults, there's a predatory relationship going on. I mean, this is obviously, like, unseemly behavior, but this is not really this is not really why he's why he's in court, right? I mean, let's be honest. It's like just more evidence of the bad behavior.
You know, as far
Kanye
as
wants
the
him free.
Other alleged victim, she was a single mom.
Kanye wants
she
Hitler free.
Met Diddy around 2020.
Like, I mean, what does
when
that
Diddy
mean?
Was single, but when Jane was single, but Diddy was seeing other people. You know,
I mean, that doesn't
Diddy
really mean a whole lot, does it?
Introduced Jane to the freak-offs, and she had tried one just to kind of make him happy, and then just kind of kept going into this repetitive cycle of doing these freak-offs, wild hotel nights, that type of sort, just to kind of appease him.
Yeah, sure.
That Jane didn't want to do these freak-offs, and that she had tried at even one point to hire men on her own that worked in the porn industry so she could pick the men. Diddy made her these escorts not wear condoms when they allegedly participated in these types of activities. So these were just kind of the big things that were pointed out as far as the government. And Jesse, do you want me to go into the defense? Because the defense was pretty interesting as well too.
Oh my
Before you go into
God.
the defense, as I was reading about the reporting today, it was the first confirmation that Cassandra Ventura is victim one in this case. We always guessed it. We always surmised it. Now we have a definitive answer. And by the way, I think it was either the prosecution or the defense who mentioned that she's going to probably testify this week as we wonder who the first witnesses are going to be.
Yep.
And also this reference to Mia, who is Sean Combs' personal assistant, that is maybe going to provide some important testimony in this case.
What do you think the odds are that his personal assistant that happens to be an attractive woman is going to be involved in this lawsuit? Like, geez, guys. We really got to sit down and think about this one, huh? Oh, man.
Now, before we go to the defense, real quick.
I wonder.
As though you're looking at all these people that are behind you right now, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Are these all reporters? Are these all fans? Are these all people
Diddy
who
fans?
are supporting Sean Combs, who are not supporting Sean Combs? Are these just interested spectators? I'm trying to get a sense
Probably
of the
just
people that are
everybody.
walking behind you right now.
There's all
so
the above.
obviously I was trying not to pay attention so much because it's really so many people, but it's really just kind of a common mix. It's a lot of people who are here with the media. You know, you have field producers, you have social media producers, you know, and pretty much every outlet across the country is here right now inside that courtroom. I wouldn't say there's too many supporters beyond that one guy just kind of yelling, and he had been kind of saying some pretty vile things to us.
Really? I would have never guessed that.
Reporters. So, you know, we're trying
He's
too much not to pay
just
attention.
crashing out. Yeah, just don't look at him. He'll go away.
To him as much as possible. As far as the family goes, you know, right before we did this hit, we saw the family kind of get into a Sprinter van and kind of drive off, maybe to get something to eat, maybe to decompress. Because, you know, think about it, Jesse, his children were inside that courtroom, especially his daughters were inside that courtroom, hearing about their father, you know, booking escorts and beating, allegedly beating women and that type of sort. So maybe it was just the time that all the family members just had to get out of here, get away from this media circus. But for the most part, it's a good mix of both media and just the general public who are just genuinely curious.
So Elizabeth, I know you have to jump back into that courtroom because they're going to start up in about 15 minutes. Real quick, if you could summarize the defense's opening statement, some highlights there.
He didn't do it. It wasn't him. This was somebody else. This is a coordinated attack on him. It's all made up. The videos are AI. All of the witnesses are just paid actors. Whole thing's fake. It wasn't me.
Yeah, the defense's opening statements were pretty, we were kind of expecting them. They were going to have to admit that Diddy had been physically violent towards women.
So my understanding, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but the guy who represented Osama bin Laden was going to be on Diddy's case, but he dropped out because he just thought that this was a bit too much. I swear. Wait, really? Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. Yes, just so you guys, because it's such a ridiculous thing to say, I have to give it an example, right? Jesus Christ, what is this? Who is Anthony Vico? The lawyer who quit Diddy's case. He once represented Osama bin Laden, but he told the judge that under no circumstances could he continue to serve as counsel for Sean Combs. Imagine being in this lineup and this guy isn't the worst one. How does that happen? Oh my God. That's saying a lot. Yes. Holy shit.
In the past, they were going to have to admit that Diddy had this type of temper, that, you know, he participated in taking these types of drugs, and that his temper was especially bad whenever he was on drugs and alcohol. You know, there was a point in the openings where Diddy stood up when Teni Garagos was introducing him to the jury. For the most part, even throughout opening statements, he kind of sat there calmly. He looked at the jurors. He looked at Teni Garagos, who again provided the opening statements on the defense's behalf.
Yeah.
You know, the defense was kind of harping on the fact that the government has no place in his bedroom, something that we had talked about plenty.
So they're actually going to go with that. That this is all a coordinated attack by the government to shut down Diddy. Oh my God.
Many of times, just how they're kind of painting this as somebody, you know, who did bad things on one hand, but were these bad things criminal? And that was essentially what the defense's argument was there. You know, they said
were they criminal? Well, I mean, if 1% of them are true, yeah. Yeah, like 1%.
The defense will see domestic violence in this trial, but, you know, while they do take it seriously, they say it's not sex trafficking. So I feel like they're trying to divide this line between, you know, this being a violence in this trial, but, you know, while they do take it seriously, they say it's not sex trafficking. So I feel like they're trying to divide this line between, you know, this being a domestic violence spat or domestic violence toxic relationship type of thing, as opposed to these being actual criminal acts that Diddy was allegedly committing and that type of thing. You know, the defense was saying that these alleged victims were strong, capable women, that they made choices that were for adults, they were free of choice, and they came with both pros and cons, and that type of thing. And then they were kind of talking a lot about how Diddy was jealous and how, you know, other partners or his other relationship partners.
The reason being is the United States had absolutely no evidence to prove Osama bin Laden was the man behind 9/11, but there was immense evidence implicating Puff Daddy. Well, I don't know why Bush did it either, right? But I do think it's an interesting comparison.
For example, Cassie. They also mentioned Gina, somebody I had talked about in some stories I had done. She had talked about how Diddy was physically violent with her in a podcast episode, for example. And so that was kind of her mention there.
How many examples?
You know, what the government was talking about as far as
Diddy's team moves to dismiss its rate. Oh my God, guys, it's racism. It's racism. That's the reason why he's on trial. Diddy's team moves to dismiss prostitution case alleging a racial bias. Right. They're summoning the old magic. Yeah, bro, I don't think that's going to work anymore.
You know, alleged victims in this case and that type of sort. They had mentioned Kim Porter and how Cassie was jealous of Kim Porter's relationship with Diddy and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then everything kind of ended as soon as Kim Porter had passed away. Cassie went to her memorial service, and that was the last time she had seen Diddy, even prior to her expectation that she'll be inside that courtroom testifying. You know, these jurors are going to see some of these freak-off videos, but they say that it was taken from Cassie's devices, not Diddy's devices. And so, you know, they talked about.
So does that matter? Like, I mean, if he's doing it, he's either doing it or he's not doing it.
For example, who had worked with Diddy for a number of years, and the defense says, you know, they want jurors to evaluate her motive to testify. When they were talking about
her motive to testify. I don't know, maybe because she got sexually assaulted and abused. But I'm sure it's all just for attention, though, right? That's the real reason.
Jane Doe, it was the same thing, that this was a jealous relationship. Jane wanted to be more public, whereas Diddy, he flaunted other relationships that weren't with Jane and that type of thing. So those were some of the biggest takeaways from the defense's openings, as well as the government's openings as well, too.
These are the arguments we anticipated. Now, obviously, there's a lot more detail to it. We're hearing it in an official capacity. And these jurors, while they might have heard certain aspects of this case, this is the first time, presumably, both arguments are being positioned to them for the first time in such a very particular way. And this is opening statements. It's not evidence, but it is the start, the official start of Sean Combs' criminal trial. Elizabeth Milner, thank you so much for reporting. Go back into that courthouse. Stay safe out there.
I'm going to link you guys the video.
A lot of interesting characters you're seeing running around. But thanks, Elizabeth. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's some that's some crazy ass people there. And wow. And opening out, Diddy is beyond cooked. Yeah, like this guy is done, man. It would have been more believable if he used some claims. Yeah, there's the video right there. Give it a like. I mean, I think this guy is done, bro. Like, he's done. Everybody knows he's done. Like, it's not even a question of whether he's done. It's like honestly, again, wake me up when we get the accomplices list. Because that's who I really want to see. And I think, do you remember the day that Diddy got arrested and like 20 public officials and people resigned from their jobs at the exact same day? Like, that was a really interesting, wasn't that crazy? Wow, what are the odds that would happen? Wow, that's crazy. Look at that. Actors too, yeah. And so I want to see them get brought up on this. I do, because I feel like this has been one of those like Epstein or like Weinstein, fucking open secrets. And man, let's close this shit. Let's close it, Leo. I love Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor, but if he was involved in this shit, he's got to go to jail. Like, that's just the way it is. And so that's the way I see it. Yeah, too bad Leo's a bad guy. Well, we don't know yet. I don't want to believe it. I really don't want to believe it. But I'm going to wait for the evidence, and then I'm going to decide. He only fucks 18 to 25? Yep, that's right. But last time I checked, that's legal. And so before I start fucking hating the guy, I'm going to wait and see what happens.